Welcome back, guys, it's Maury, and today we are going to be taking a look at how to select the best agent for your playstyle. Now, if you're new to Valorant, you're obviously seeing there is a ton of different agents that you can pick from, and there's also different categories that you need to sort of work through to determine who you might like to play. Now, when you first set out, there's so many agents, it's kind of hard to know, do I want to be a duelist? Do I want to be a sentinel? Do I want to be an initiator? What do these mean? What are their play styles? How do I even go about working it out? That's what we're going to cover in today's video. There are 4 different categories of agents in Valorant. We have the Duelist, top fragger, here I am, the Initiator, flashes for everybody, the Sentinel, have I got a heal? No, I just heal myself, and the Controller. I'm about to lock this map down. Now, all of these different agents have different play styles, and they all mesh together to create a well-rounded team. Now, although they all mesh together and they all play as a team, they have very different roles that you need to play depending on the role and class that you select. So how I would recommend picking an agent in the very beginning is start to just play Valorant, understand the fundamentals. You don't need to necessarily lock in a main straight away, but what you can actually do is be a little bit self-aware, pay attention to your play style and work out, do I like just pushing for kills straight away? Do I like being the first person on site? Am I more comfortable sitting back and maybe being the second or third person on site? Do I like setting traps for players like a spider waiting for a fly to come into my web? Am I someone who likes to sit in the back line and make sure that the team isn't getting flanked? All of these playstyles are actually different agents and different roles within Valorant. So by working out what you like to actually do when you're playing the game initially will help put you in the right category to then narrow it down to picking a main agent to play. For example, let's say I love being the first person on site. I just love chasing kills all the time. The obvious choice there is going to be a duelist. A duelist is someone who is first on site. Their job is purely to get on site so that the team can then follow them in and basically distract the enemy, get as many kills as they can before they get taken down. So if I'm playing Jet, for example, I might throw a smoke onto site, dash onto site, and this is going to get all of the enemies already holding the site paying attention to, oh my god, Jet has just dashed on site, meaning it's easier for the rest of the team to then enter. So you're really the battering ram, bringing the team into the site and causing a big distraction. You might take out 1 or 2 people, then get taken out as your team flows in and picks up the kills on the people who inevitably took you down. So that's how the duelist works. Let's now take a look at the controller. A controller is effectively someone who has the ability to lock down sections of the map, again, making it easier for your team to get onto the bomb site. Now, how this might work is you have a character like Omen or Brimstone or Astra who have smokes and can basically block off choke points that the enemy needs to cross through in order to get map control. You can deny the visibility around those choke points, helping your team control the site, and all your team has to do is hold the smokes, making sure that no one pushes through. You also have Viper, who has a long wall and can block off multiple choke points in a straight line. So there is a number of different characters within the controller category that you can choose from. But first, I recommend working out whether you are a duelist, whether you are a controller. Perhaps you're neither of those. Maybe you're an initiator. An initiator's role is to gather information early on to prevent your team from dying. Now, this may be Sova with his dart. You can shoot a dart, which is a recon, straight into the site, which reveals enemies. So you can get early information and go, they have 4 people defending this site, which means there can only be 1 player on the other site. Let's go there instead. That is one way of gathering information. You could have Skye, who has a dog, which she can actually run around the map, checking all of the angles as your team enters the site, and she can say, there's someone on the left. She can also stun that person, then your team can follow it up and kill the person. So getting these early information means that your team is less at risk of dying as they enter sites, and also gathers information to determine which site would be best to push for your team. Maybe you're thinking, Maury, none of those really sound like me. Well, then perhaps you're the fourth category, which is the Sentinel. The Sentinel has the ability to lock down sections of the map, primarily the flank. You have Cypher, who can put tripwires out to basically prevent people from sneaking up behind you. You have Chamber, who has a trip that he can put down to monitor and alert you when people are rotating in behind you. You have a lot of different options. You could play Sage, which has the ability to heal, res, but also she has a giant wall which she can use to block off choke points in the map, meaning that your team has to watch less sections of the map for a period of time. Or maybe it's Killjoy, who has little bombs she can put down on top of the spike to help your team prevent enemies from defusing the spike and dragging out the clock until the spike inevitably explodes. She also has a turret that she can set up to watch maybe middle of the map, so that way you don't actually have to have a player watching middle of the map. So there is a number of different categories that you have to choose from depending on your play style. So once you've picked the type of agent that you want to play, the next thing to consider is which agent within those categories do you want to play. Now, they all have different utility, but they all have similar play styles depending on the class that you've picked. If you have a Sentinel, you're primarily going to be locking down those sections of the map, preventing people from flanking your team, and that is effectively your role. But then you can choose which agent you want to play. Now, you may say, well, how am I going to do that? Initially, I would recommend playing a single agent to familiarize yourself, get really used to where your utility should be placed. For example, if I'm playing Sage, I'm going to get a feel for which are the best choke points to lock down with my wall. And if I play her enough, I start to understand where I should res and where I should not res players, because I'm just going to get my team killed again. Or what are the best situations to hold my res, because, you know, this person's lost 10 health. I shouldn't maybe heal them. Maybe I should wait until a player is super low and then use a more effective heal there. All of these things start to familiarize yourself with an agent, and after a while, you can start to play the specific agent who is best on any particular map within your category. What I mean by that is, let's say I am playing controller, and my job is to smoke sections of the map. And I ordinarily play Brimstone, for example. Brimstone has perfectly round smokes that block off small choke points. He is great on tight maps where the enemy has to funnel through tunnels or corridors, and they really have no choice but to go through this tiny opening onto site. That's where Brimstone excels. However, when you go to a map like Bree's, which is really wide open, and it has a lot of area for enemies to move around the map, these smokes, because of the size of them, all of a sudden become less effective. Meaning that someone like Viper, who has a straight wall that can block off a huge section of the map, and really any portion of the map, would be a better choice on a map like Breeze. So after I start to get comfortable with one agent, I can start picking and choosing which agent I want to play. If I'm a controller main and I play smokes ordinarily, I can start saying, okay, well on Haven, I'm going to play Omen because I can teleport from A to B site to plant the spike, meaning that I can eat up a lot of time while the enemy team rotates. Or I can play Viper on Breeze, I can play Brimstone on Bind, and I start to get familiar with all of the different strategies for different agents, all controllers though, because I'm a controller main, but on the various maps that they excel at. That's it for this video, guys. I hope that this gave you a lot of insight into picking the type of role that you want to play, whether that be a duelist, a controller, initiator, or a sentinel, and then also how to break down and decide which agent you will play based on the map after the fact. That's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, consider subscribing if you aren't already, and I'll catch you on the next one.